Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on three. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, laughing in the face of motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. Today, we're talking to Kate Baer. She is the 3-time New York Times bestselling author of the poetry collections, What Kind of Woman? I Hope This Finds You Well, and Yet. Her work has also been published in The New Yorker, Literary Hub, Huffington Post, and The New York Times. Kate is also the mother of 4. Her latest collection is entitled How About Now? Welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
I love your poetry. It's deeply personal and deeply relatable. And How About Now is in that same vein, and it took shape during what you call a season of unexpected change in your life. So can you tell us a little bit about that time in your life?
This book was actually delayed a year. I keep saying this, and I'll say it again today, that I've always been a really late bloomer to life in so many ways, but this time I was very green and very early to a midlife crisis before I even turned 40.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. I kind of got it out of the way. That's kind of the silver lining here, but I was 39, almost 39, when I went through a whole bunch of health issues, which really made me face my own mortality. And this book really was born from that, kind of influenced the shape of it, although, it explores a lot of different themes, but it's about midlife and specifically facing ourselves and our changing bodies and all the wonderful parts and all the difficult parts. I think that kind of sums it up.
And you also talk about your transition in motherhood, which is very resonant to me. You talk about taking off the kind of young mommy hat. We talk sometimes about like the river is flowing and you're just on the boat and everything's moving fast. And it's hard to notice the way things are changing. And you're like, oh, these kids will always need me so much. And then you find yourself with kids who you're like, where are they? I haven't seen them in a while. Talk a little bit about that transition for you and how it affected your writing.
Yeah, I have a high schooler and a middle schooler and then 2 still in elementary school. And it's all new to me. It's such a different season of life. It's such a different way of communicating. There are different needs now. A lot of it is hands-off, which is so different from the younger years where there's so much physicality. And now it's a lot of emotional burden, at least for me, and trying to hold myself back from stepping in.
How's that going? Not amazing for me, the holding myself back.
Not great.
No, I'm finding it quite a challenge.
I'm so glad I have other women in my life who are going through the same thing, because just the other day I was saying to my husband, oh my gosh, none of our kids are taking baths anymore. And isn't this so sad? Like I was getting rid of all the bath toys. And he was like, oh, I never thought about it. I'll never think about that. But I'm such a nostalgic person, or maybe it's just the role of a mother to kind of internalize that. I'm not losing sleep over not taking someone out of the bath anymore, but there is a mourning of these little things that, especially when there's 4, I've been doing bath time for like 15 years. And so there are things like that I've really had to let go of and try to embrace all the new things, like being able to watch The Office together or do grown-up stuff together and take trips and go on road trips where we can all hike at the same time and not have someone wait back at the house for nap time. So I'm really trying to look for those really great milestones instead of hitching my wagon to the past and being sad about bath time.
Right. Farewell to each bath toy. Don't you think, though, that that's the privilege of being a writer or a poet, I imagine, is that you see these moments as meaningful?
It's nice that you call it a privilege. I think especially as like an Enneagram 4 and a poet, I'm extremely annoying to people. I think that my nostalgia and my, oh my God, bath time and the baby clothes and having to cry over this and write poetry, I think is kind of a drag. But that's nice that you are seeing this as a silver lining. I like that. That's nice.
We make art out of it. You take your broken heart and make it into art.
Exactly.
Will you read us The Invisible Hand? It's one of your poems that really got me in the gut when I read it.
Absolutely. The Invisible Hand. Time dripped from the faucet until late 30s. An invisible hand reached down and turned the tap to a steady stream. I couldn't begin to understand it, the sudden brevity of seasons. 1 minute cutting a watermelon, the next a Christmas tree. I stood at the sink and wondered how to spend my life. There was no answer. Instead, a voice from behind the curtain. We only have so many summers with our children. Like a good mother, I made plans.
The line, 1 minute cutting a watermelon, the next a Christmas tree. I think I have to write on my whiteboard. It's just like this whole feeling of time speeding up. And let me tell you from the future, it only gets worse.
I can imagine that.
It just goes faster and fast. My best friend said to me, she had a baby when we were 18, and she said, it's crazy. Every year is faster than the next. And because I was so far behind her having kids, I don't think I had that sensation in my 20s. But now I just feel it's happening right now. It's the holidays all of a sudden.
It takes my breath away.
And we often kind of make fun of the imaginary woman who comes out of the shadows at the grocery store to be like, enjoy every moment. It goes so fast.
Right.
And you're like, leave me alone, you crazy hag.
Yeah, but then you become the crazy hag.
Right.
I mean,
And I see people with little babies and I'm like, you better. And I hated that. I hated that pressure to enjoy every minute. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking about my child going to college and I'm like, wait. I wasn't ready for this. I'm not ready to say goodbye yet.
Yeah, I'm finding right now, I pick my kids up from middle and high school. Every time I pick them up, we drive past their little elementary school with the hundreds of kids pouring out. And I'm doing the thing where I'm like, you guys, it was yesterday. You were there. Look, there's your little teacher. And they're just like, lady, please stop talking to me. And please don't let any of my friends see that I have a mother. That would be humiliating to me. I always kind of was joking, I feel like, about the sentimentality of it to Amy because my kids were a little younger and I was like, I'll never be that person. Guess what?
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm soaking in it.
It comes for you.
Kate, there's a whole series of poems in this book. I want to try to describe them so the audience can picture them, and I guess you will do a better job than me, but they're forms. The kind of forms that we fill out all the time as women and as mothers. One is a gynecology intake form. One is a school emergency drill record, the kind of thing where you go through and you check what happened and you circle yes or no. And then you write poetry on top of them. You're putting the truth on top of these small boxes that can't really contain the truth. You're putting it there anyway. So tell us what gave you the idea to make these into poems and what that represents to you.
I did a whole book of erasure poetry. My second book, I Hope This Finds You Well, which was a really fun, creative challenge. It carried over into the next book and then into this one. I really enjoy playing around with poetry in that way visually. And so I can't help but put it in. It's one of my favorite parts. Those are some of my favorite pieces, just because even though they're heavy topics, it's kind of a spirit of playfulness as well to stretch creatively and also make you stop and think about these things that just come our way all the time, but the seriousness that can come with it and the heaviness and the real thing that we're doing. We get those emails all the time and that paperwork all the time about those shooter drills. And it almost makes us numb to it because we're like, oh, it's just another Thursday. We do this every March. We do this every September. But I want to stop and say, well, wait, we don't need to do this. This isn't necessary to do this. We could take action to not even have to send these papers home. So that's kind of the background behind those.
It really is visceral. I had an experience where I was volunteering on the school play when there was a drill. My kid was in maybe first grade. And I ended up in the lighting booth of the little theater with the kids hiding. It was a drill, but having signed 1 million of those forms and seeing the email, we had a drill today. It just goes by on the river again.
Yeah.
And I sat in that closet with these little kids, and there was a kid who had a cough, and they were coughing, and the other kids kept saying, shh, shh, to this little kid with a cough. And I just found myself in this room sobbing, like heaving out of control, ugly cry. and trying to kind of hide it from the kids because I didn't want it to land for them how absurd and terrifying and awful and what this moment was the tip of.
Yeah.
And thinking about that poem and then my moment with that, how do you find dialing into those moments as a mom? I think a lot of times as a mother, we have to let those things wash by for our own emotional health. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you find it challenging to kind of find yourself double clicking on those moments that I think we don't internalize because it's too painful?
That particular topic is really difficult for me. I don't often read those poems on my tour. I'm happy to talk about it today, but I have a really hard time separating myself from talking about it objectively when I still have 4 children in school. And it's something I have to deal with on a regular basis. Every time I put them on the bus, I think about it. There's not been a day I've not thought about it since December 14th. I think it was, is it
2012?
2012. It's really hard. I've had to do a lot of internal work to be able to write about it, to talk about it. Something that's been really helpful for me is to be involved in with Moms Demand Action. And I've recently signed on to be part of Ceasefire for Pennsylvania. So those kind of action steps have really helped me beyond the poetry, just being in my community and trying to make little changes with background checks and that sort of thing has really helped me be able to write about it, talk about it, and just exist in a world in which this is possible anywhere, not even our schools. It's a really tough topic, but it keeps resurfacing in every book because, like I said, this is something that's daily in my mind.
In that particular poem, there's a space on the form that says lessons learned. Having that form sort of in the background of the poem, it's the opposite of tying it up in a bow, right? Your poem does the opposite of like, and here's the lesson learned. I guess we just have to live with this. You were refusing to do that. That lesson learned, unanswerable question is just hanging there looking ridiculous. That really spoke to me. The impossibility of what's being asked by these forms, that you can cut things down into acceptable phrases, something that's big and terrible.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about female friendship. Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
Kate, will you read to us your poem, Women Talking?
Of course, this is called Women Talking. The dog gets sick all over the carpet, makes us late to school. My daughter wailing in the back seat that this is my fault even though I got this dog to help her manage all her problems. In the parking lot, I send a message that sounds like I hate my life, even though I don't, and this is just another morning in the casino hall. Carrie says, I know the feeling. Bethany says, you're almost there. Mo sends a photo of 2 toads making love in her small koi pond. MILF, we all write back, man, do I love frogs, and go about our days.
Do you receive those messages as poems? Like, how do you receive this idea of women texting each other what we kind of mean, what we don't mean, how we sort of rescue each other?
Because my female friendships, and I think this is true for a lot of women, are such a savior to me on a daily basis, and just kind of the way that I help process motherhood and marriage and life in general, it's such an easy backdrop for me for poetry because it is so much of my world. And there are so many times where I'm texting, or I know a lot of people use voice notes. I use apps that basically do the same thing, Boxer, Marco Polo. I'm talking to my friends all day, whether talking or texting. And there are so many moments almost every day where I think, oh, that's poetry. Oh, that right there, that's poetry. No one's meaning to do it, but it is because we're connecting over the little things, not the small talk, catch you up on what I've been doing the last 6 months and talking about youth sports, but real things like my husband's an idiot and my teenager wants Snapchat. Those kind of conversations are so poetic. Female friendship is something that has come up in all my books because I can't live without it.
You're writing a lot about motherhood, and we obviously talk a lot about motherhood on our Motherhood podcast. In talking to so many talented, brilliant women we know, writing or exploring motherhood as a theme can sometimes be dismissed by other people. Like, oh, she's a mommy blogger. She's a mommy podcaster. How do you find that? Do you find that something about how people receive your poetry as like a mom poet?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Do we need to extend the podcast by an hour for you to answer?
That could be a different podcast, a whole other podcast hour. I will say that in 2025, I feel much better about this topic than I did in 2020 when What Kind of Woman came out. I feel like I spent every interview defending myself, every press podcast interview trying to talk my way out of that and be like, no, that's not just who I am, is being a mommy and talking about mommy things. Motherhood and the experience of motherhood has been labeled such a niche topic when we all have a mother. All of us, for better or for worse, whether she was there or not there, we've all had a mother. Motherhood is one of the most universal topics in the world. And to label it to be so niche is ridiculous to me. How many coming-of-age novels about baseball have we all had to read in the 8th grade?
Right.
And yet motherhood is niche. It's unbelievable. So I've really tried to let that go. And I will say, you know, I got really mad. I was in People magazine once, just like a little book blurb, and they called me a former mommy blogger. And I was really mad. After that, I tried to really look at why I was so angry. And I realized I also had so much internalized misogynism about this topic. Like, I also was like, no, that's not me. When I should be like, yeah, I did write about motherhood. It was great. I connected with a lot of women. I was able to build an audience. I'm talking about something that so many people care about. I also need to embrace it instead of try to erase that from every bio and instead be like, yes, I talk about motherhood.
We understand. And I mean, 3 bestsellers later, 4 bestsellers later, I think that the interest is clearly there. There's a lot of us out there that want to talk about something that's central to our lives.
This is the most important work of a lot of people's lives. This is the work that goes into your children's bones, that will be in their grandchildren's bones. long after you've left the planet. Like, what is the accountant doing that's more important than making a recipe that was made by my great-grandmother on a farm in Ireland? Like, that's the most important work of being alive. And I refuse to have it be made small by people who don't understand its worth.
Exactly. I could not have said it better myself. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to use that on my book tour.
Okay, good. Just send me a nickel every time you say it, and we'll be even.
I will.
There's another kind of erasure poem that you do that isn't the forms. It is like there's like a block of text. I'm sure people can picture what we're talking about. We'll, of course, link to the book in the show notes for this episode. But it's like a block of text where almost every word is crossed out except for a word here and there. I feel like those poems tend to either slyly reveal what the underlying text doesn't realize it's saying, or completely undercut and reverse what the underlying text is saying. So when did you start doing those, and how do you know when you see a block of text, oh, I see what I'm going to do here? Does it come to you, or do you try it first and see if it works?
It really depends what poem. There's a piece in there called Box Breathing that's actually really hard to read in the final copy because of how it was printed, but I have it memorized. I actually said it to myself. I woke up in the middle of the night 4 nights ago, just really panicked. And I said it to myself, and it goes, I am alive today. I have quieted the narrator. There's nothing I must do. There's no one I need to talk to. I am here and unafraid. And when I was kind of going through some of my medical issues, I remember saying things like that to myself. I would have these little mantras like, I'm okay, I'm alive. There's nothing I need to do but figure this out. There's no one else I need to talk to but myself, and checking in with myself. So when I wrote that piece, the backdrop was kind of a lot of the things I was going through. And so I kind of built that poem differently. There's also a piece in there from Alice in Wonderland, which is one of my favorite stories. That one I just took from the original author, and then there's another one. I think there's one more. It was from a novel I wrote. I didn't edit that text, but I thought that novel will probably never be published, but why don't I take a page and turn it into a poem? And that was just for fun.
Were you a novelist first before you were a poet?
I think I'm just a writer first. You know, I was writing novels when I was 10 and poems when I was 10. So I don't think there's really one that I am before the other. I do think a poet was always something I was going to be, but I would love to write a novel. That would be fun.
Poetry feels to me like the ability to sing. I mean, Amy and I are both writers. Amy's published a bunch of books. I've written some things. But poetry feels more like being a singer. Like you have to have a special ability to do poetry. Like it feels like a mystery door to me, poetry.
Well, I write by ear. I write poetry by ear. And so that really makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah. A lot of people ask me that, am I choosing what looks better? And I choose what sounds better. It pains me. There's so many sentences and words that I've had to cut because they don't sound right. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's this distillation of meaning that happens with poetry.
It's boiled down storytelling, which is my favorite part of poetry, that you can tell a whole story in 30 seconds because you're just getting right to the middle of it.
I teach poetry sometimes, which is hilarious because I don't write it. Or I just read poetry with my students. But I always say there's like a scarf pulled from your chest feeling that you get with a good poem sometimes, where you literally get that drip turning into a stream from the faucet. It's the thing where you hear it.
Yeah.
You've felt it a million times and no one has ever said it out loud to you. To me, that is the magic of poetry.
And it's just like music. You listen to a song and you have that same feeling. Even if you can't hear all the words, you might hear some of it. You know, when people say they don't like poetry, I think, oh, you just haven't read the right one yet. It's like saying, I don't like music. Well, you just haven't heard the right song. Once you hear the right song, like most people do, as a child, as a baby, oh, that's what I like. That's what I connect to. This is the same with poetry. We just we aren't as exposed to poetry as we are, obviously, to music.
Will you read us a marriage poem?
This is called Marriage Poem. This is a poem about marriage. It doesn't have any sex in it. I know you might be looking. Instead, we have whole milk, fruit flies, 4 kids, apologies dressed as turkey sandwiches. At some point in every day, someone must decide what everyone else will eat for dinner. My grandmother said, men only want one thing from their wives. But now she's dead, and I can't ask her what it was. Among my Google tabs, there is a list of places we should research for vacation. Money is an issue. Children are an issue. A 90-minute bedtime routine is an issue. But back to dinner. Pot roast or salmon steaks? My husband says I have a way of making everything into something. The happiest hours of my life have been alone, watching my family through a window. I love my life except for the noise of it. The thing about dinner is someone has to decide to step out of their own way.
Dinner. I mean, we've talked about that so many times in this podcast. Like, why is that the actual hardest thing? It's the unceasing every single day. Someone must decide, the royal someone, because it's probably the poet in this case.
The dinner conversation is rage bait for me because I cannot, for the life of me, think of a food I've ever liked, much less a food that 6 people are going to enjoy. So that's a tough one for me. It's the struggle. It's a struggle every day, every week when I'm making the meal plan, which I do now to help myself. But the struggle's real there. Yeah.
I feel like your poetry has its apologies dressed as turkey sandwiches.
Yes, that was my phrase too.
Magic little piece in the middle. It does have that everyday kind of pedestrian feel. And then right in the middle, there's a line that just lights you up. It's so cool.
Thank you. When I was reading the audiobook, I realized I wrote turkey sandwiches in 2 poems. So I should have dedicated the book to turkey sandwiches and not my parents.
That is funny.
It's definitely a theme in this book, the marriage that was one thing and has kind of slowly turned into something else, right? Like now you text me about tax questions.
Yeah, instead of for nudes.
Yeah, instead of for nudes, now you text me with tax questions. And it's a totally natural progression and deeply relatable. But I feel like poetry is often saved for the blush of romance, the fervor of love, instead of the apologies dressed as turkey sandwiches, when this is life. This is the life that we actually live.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how dating, you're looking for a good dancer with nice eyes, and marriage, you need a mountain climbing partner who's got the right supplies in their backpack. And they're so different. I love that we're hearing more women's voices talking about the depth and the, boringness, the kind of routine that is our actual lives. Because if we make the story, the dance partner, the us who exists after 30 or 40 is not interesting to anybody. And I love that women's voices are saying at 40, at 50, at 60, we still exist and have great knowledge and things to say. And I think through women having more access to mediums like podcasting or writing or whatever it is, we're just hearing more about the stories of women after the old poems, which was, you're beautiful and everyone's in love with you. It's like, okay, but I still exist as the grocery store hag. I'm still here, by the way, guys.
I'm still here. Yeah.
We're talking to Kate Baer, and we will be right back.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes, at the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today, and let us surprise you.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. Kate, there's another deeply relatable theme in this collection of poetry for all of us listening, and it is our relationship with our own bodies. And I love the poem, You're So Funny, and I was hoping you would read it for us.
Absolutely. This one's called You're So Funny. You're so funny. Thanks. I was wearing plus-size sweaters and elastic jeans from the ladies section by the time I was 14, hopping in your parents' SUV saying, Don, you're looking handsome, winking at the teacher, shouting out the window lyrics to a Savage Garden song. It's a funny thing to spend your whole life trying to desperately outrun the joke.
Hits a little too close to home for us over here.
Gut punch.
Hashtag gut punch.
Yeah. Your whole life trying to desperately outrun the joke, and a body that is telling a different story that doesn't match how you feel inside. I feel like no matter who you are, if you're female, you've had a body that is ahead of you, that is behind you, that is not showing what you want it to say, that is daring to look obviously pregnant as you walk down the street and people comment on it, whatever.
Right.
Our bodies are something we need to fix.
Body has definitely been a theme as well in all my books. I think most of us as women can relate in some way, like you said, to sometimes almost feeling apart from our body and looking at it like, why is this taking up so much space in the conversation or in our humanity or how we're walking around the world? Why does this have to be such a theme? I've been plus sized most of my life. I'm currently in a straight size body, but for 95% of my life, starting before puberty, I was a fat kid. I was a fat teenager, and it informed so much of how I interacted with the world. And I continue to process that. And especially with having children, especially having a daughter, I'm heartened by the changes that have been made while also being disgusted by how much has not changed, how much I can live in what I believe is the most body neutral home you could live in and still hear her talk about herself in a way that it makes me sick because I can't protect her from the rest of the world. That's a really tricky place to be as a mom.
I think it's another place where having constant conversations about not weight, but moving away from the ideas that we were raised with. It's only, for me, it's only a generation away. My mother's generation was raised like thin is what matters. It matters more than yourself. It is the absolute thing that matters.
Yeah.
And I think as we're trying to change that idea for our daughters, it's not just like Dove commercials with people of different sizes. It really is about having conversations about where we're coming from with our bodies.
Yeah.
I have tremendous compassion for myself and all of our listeners who struggle with the idea, because you're not going to throw out these ideas that you were raised with for 30 years.
No.
But I think it is really useful to have conversations about why are we doing this?
Yes. I wish I had something profound to say, but I don't. In fact, what I have to say is really things I just keep to myself in private conversations now because I'm in a real self-protective state. When you lose weight, I've never been more aware of the fat phobia that exists all around me. I am praised on a weekly basis for how I look, even though my body changes are from medical difficulty. It's been just really hard to face people that I love and that I know and that I trust when those kind of comments are being made. But I wish I had something really honestly more positive to share. I do think that every generation we make a little bit of progress. And so I have to have hope in that. I really do. And I know just from seeing my own mother and seeing my own grandmother, I do see those steps. I do see those steps in those generations. And I hope that our children can kind of take their experiences in our more body neutral homes and take that next step forward, even though the progress is slow.
It's slow.
Yeah, it's really slow.
Kate, during the pandemic, when we were all like so stuck and so isolated and siloed in our homes, I had What Kind of Woman? And I had it out on my coffee table because I wanted not just my daughter, but my sons and my spouse to read it as well. And it was a book that I felt like I could dip in and out of and see my life reflected back at me in a way that made me feel better, like hearing about the faucet, the time speeding up like a stream of water, or the apologies dressed as turkey sandwiches, like, yes, 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 me too. And something kind of clicks into place.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, for you as the poet, do you get to have that experience with your own poetry? Like, yes, that's it exactly. Are there moments of that? Or is this, gee, I hope anybody else feels this way, but I'm not sure.
There's definitely a moment when I'm writing, and this doesn't happen very often, but when it does, and I can think of a few times when it has, there are some times when I'm writing poetry where I hear the 4-part chord. I hear that and I'm like, oh, that's it. This is what I meant to say. This is what I've always meant to say. And like the angels kind of sing. Now, this is like 10%. This is 5% of the time. Most of the time, it's a real struggle bus of commas and what word would make sense here and just painstaking editing. But I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but there are those moments. There's a line in the You Text Me for My Taxes and Not for Nudes poem that says, lift your mouth to the horn and call me back to you. And when I wrote that, I put my hand over my heart and I thought, oh, that's how I've been feeling this whole time. Now, I don't read my own poetry and I don't reread it and feel that way now. Not that I don't enjoy it. I'm not sitting around reading my own poetry, but I feel that way when I read other people's poetry. Certainly. It's one of the best parts. It's why I love poetry and reading in general. I mean, I just read Heart the Lover. Do you know that book by Lily King?
No.
Oh my goodness. Write it down. Heart the Lover. There were so many times in that book where I stopped and I went, that is it right there. She writes a beautiful story about love and marriage and having children. And it's a beautiful book. Those are the good parts. But no, I don't read my own work and think that would be nuts.
Oh, that helps.
Another genius moment from Kate. I love it.
No, it happened, right, a few times when I'm writing my own things, but not when I don't sit around reading my own books. That would be crazy.
Do you imagine your reader when you write these poems? Are you writing to yourself, somebody in particular, all of the above?
Yeah, all of the above. They're all for different people. Each poem is for somebody else. Sometimes they're for me. Sometimes they're for my enemy. Sometimes they're for my sister or my friend. I do sometimes picture an imaginary reader and think, I hope this reaches the right person. But I hope it's a mirror for anyone who's reading and they can find something to take away.
We've been talking to Kate Baer. Her latest collection of poetry is entitled How About Now? We will put the link in the show notes to where you can buy the book. But Kate, tell our listeners where else they can find you and your work.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, some social medias, not all of them. Kate J. Baer is my handle on any social media. I also have a website and a Substack. If you type my name into Google, you'll find me. Come find me. Come be with me. Come see me. I would love to meet you.
Baer is spelled Baer for the record, and we will link to all of those places so you don't have to remember. But if you just are getting it in your mind to go visit, Baer. And with that, Kate, thanks so much for talking to us today. We loved this book.
I love talking to you. Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
Thanks, Kate.